So good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us in our fight against racial inequity. Just a reminder that we are recording and we had a good group join us for brainstorming 2 weeks ago. Through the year and during each We Have a Dream meeting, we listened, discussed, and now we want to agree on immediate action for this group. The time for all of us to commit is here if we truly want to get our parish on board with this group's goal of reducing racial inequity. As the Apostle Paul says, everyone has different skills. As we discuss what arose during the brainstorming session and the needed actions we'll propose, see what aligns with your talent and calls you to this work. So let us prayerfully ask God's help with the first question. How do we make room on our already full plates for this critical work? And now if you'll mute yourselves if you haven't already, while Father leads us in prayer.
And let us all pray. Holy One, so beautiful to us. This week we honor the spirit and work of Dr. King. We are grateful for his spirit, birthed and formed by the gospel. As we gather tonight, sharing his concern about injustice in our midst, help us, like him, to turn over and over again to your gospel. May it instruct us and guide us tonight, as we seek, as Dr. King did, to find ways to cure racism in the human heart and to heal the harm such racism inflicts among us. We ask this of you, who have graced us with Dr. King in and through Jesus, the Just One, who lives with you and lives with us always, everywhere, and forever, to which we say,
Amen. Thank you, Father, for that beautiful prayer. And now Jody's going to share her screen as we summarize the key points that were made during the brainstorming session. And then we're going to follow that with possible actions. And then after that, we'll eventually get to discussion, but we want to run through it to give everybody just an idea of what happened during the brainstorming. And then you'll have an opportunity to add other things if you would like. So Jody, can you share your screen? Thank you. So the first segment deals with education. So we are just going to list the major points that were brought up. And the first one was our continuing education, and that of parishioners is paramount. Education must include spiritual, cranial, and heart components. It will be critical at the town meeting, but we don't even want to wait till that. It needs to start before that if we're going to start getting parishioners interested and maybe excited. So we need to touch hearts with personal witness to help others understand why our work is important. A racial equity lens should be included in everything we do. This education will require leadership from Father and this group. We need to organize our We Have a Dream recordings in a folder. We need a link on the St. Fee's website to We Have a Dream. We need to show that South Baltimore Community Land Trust will grow, will change people's lives, is measurable and vital. We will strive to have a parish-wide ministry without acting like we know it all and not making assumptions on why others have not joined us. We need to inspire our fellow parishioners by sharing our journey of education and passion for this work of racial justice to form a total parish effort. There is a crowd psychology at play. If we excite them, they will follow. We really want to help them recognize and feel a shared responsibility and desire for this work based on the gospel message of love. We know from our own experience that understanding structural and systemic racism is difficult. We also know that trying to help others understand will never be successful if we use an approach that creates guilt or blame or shame. So many already work tirelessly in our ministries, and we need to add to that work an awareness of root causes of racial and social inequity. Our town hall meeting needs to be informational, not a dialogue rehashing how we spent the last 17 months. And we need a We Have a Dream mission statement. And at least eventually we envision working with other parishes. Now, based on those points from the brainstorming, what are some of the actions needed? Again, we'll list a few and discuss them later. So write a brief witness reflection on your Damascus moment, or what calls you to this work, or keeps you committed. We believe it's really important that everyone in this group take this week to write or videotape something from the heart. It can just be a few sentences, but it should be personal, and I'll explain a little later why we're encouraging you to do it right away. We could use the short video or the script in our town meeting or for the e-newsletter, or use excerpts of it for marketing purposes, etc. Next, write concise educational statements for the e-newsletter or the call to worship. For example, on Sunday, January 2nd, we wrote a paragraph for the e-newsletter to tie together the feasts of the baptism of the Lord, the hymns, the Bible readings, and our We Have a Dream efforts. Members of this group could be instrumental in sharing our message through the e-news or the call to worship or the prayers of the faithful. Anyone in this group could use Sunday readings to assist awareness of We Have a Dream's mission and how we are called by the word for service. This is another action for those who write. A brief report, perhaps monthly, on the progress of our group in the e-newsletter. We need to put We Have a Dream, A World Without Racism on St. V's website for easy access to the summaries, videos, and messages. We need to summarize the monthly We Have a Dream meetings. We need to organize and redo of the We Have a Dream videos in a folder. We need to spread the feeling that it is an exciting time to be in our parish. Need to inspire others with our passion to pull in those separated from the church and our relatives. And we need to write a We Have a Dream mission statement. And before we talk about actions we discussed in the brainstorming that dealt with the South Baltimore Community Land Trust and the town meeting and the Racial Equity Fund and our relationship with the synodal process, we wanted to stop for a moment to see if there were additional actions needed for education that we haven't mentioned. So we'll break now for some discussion. Would it be helpful? Oh, Father, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's an allusion to this, but I think it becomes critically important, not only in regard to racism, but a lot of other social injustice issues. We need to try to gain a deeper and richer understanding around what causes people to be racist. Okay? And I don't think there's a single answer to that question. I think it may have multiple sources, but until we fully understand what those roots are, we're going to be able to do a great deal of good, I think, but we could do more good or greater good by healing the individual heart. And that will happen, I believe, by understanding what are the root causes within the individual person who develops a racist attitude and racist behavior. In your delineation, you talked about the roots of racial inequality in society, but that in society happens because it's rooted inside the human heart. And I think we need to examine what are those so that we can address those in a creative way.
All right, thank you. And I think to that point, our introduction of some of the bias training that we had in the town meeting will be pretty critical too, because I think it gets to some of that. But yeah, that's a good point. Anybody else? Okay, I mean, there's always time later, so that's okay. Mary Ann?
I just wanted to say, considering how all over the place we were in the brainstorming session, I think that was a lovely job of synthesizing. So thank you for everyone who did that.
Thank you. Jody and Skip. All right, so we will go on. Everybody good? All right. So before we start on the South Baltimore Community Land Trust, Jody, just one additional thing on the education theme. There was discussion and a desire to integrate our racial equity work with the synodal process and to be part of that conversation on who we want to be as a community. So those who have read the e-news for the past months are well aware of the time limits for the synod and the importance we place on it for substantive change in the church. And St. V's even hired a facilitator. They contracted with one for the synodal process and on the finding our parish identity. So I did talk to Audrey about making We Have a Dream kind of part of that process, and it isn't really possible. The process is kind of separate, but that means that all of us have to raise our voices about racism as part of who we want our church to be or what we don't want our church to be. So we need to really raise our voices, whether it's during the synodal listing process or during the what do we want our parish to be. So we need to bring out all the stuff that we've been talking about for 17 months so that it is part of our identity as a parish, that we want to be against inequities. Okay. At Parish Council last Tuesday, all committees were asked to curtail activities during the period of January 24th through March 1st, so that parishioners may fully participate and not have other commitments. The only exception was the direct services led by the Social Action Committee. Therefore, we will not hold a February We Have a Dream meeting. So that means that we need to use these next 4 days before January 24th fruitfully to get as much done as we can. So that's why earlier I thought, hopefully, if we can all do a little reflection for our witness statement, that would be extremely helpful if we could do it quickly, or this week, if we could commit to do that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So now, Jody, sorry, you may share your screen. And Skip's going to cover the next segment that was covered during the brainstorming.
Thanks, Peggy. So next, we will focus on brainstorming comments about South Baltimore Community Land Trust. And again, we will be just listing comments that came up during our brainstorming session, followed by actions needed. We will start with the comments that came up on ways St. Vincent's can support the South Baltimore Community Land Trust. The South Baltimore Community Land Trust is very interested in thought leaders. For example, if you are or know a developer or a contractor or have expertise on any aspect of community development, networking, marketing, or contacts with the city council, etc., all of those kinds of skills, maybe that's where you personally can really help the South Baltimore Community Land Trust. We would like to help with our own experienced people with our varied skills, offering new ideas, like a crackerjack facilitator for improving their ongoing strategic plan, and someone who may be able to help with grant writing or web design or technology. So we need to get our team and parishioners to commit to support them with our talents where they desire the help. Of course, they will always need money. We acknowledged fundraising is complicated and it must be ongoing. For example, how frequently do we solicit money? And what variety of donors' commitments should we be able to offer? One time, monthly, quarterly, annually? Of course, we will need a board to administer the Racial Equity Fund. We need to set a goal for the year 2022, specifying the items for which we want to raise funds for Sbclt this year, and hoping to exceed, of course, any goal we set. So what actions are needed to support the Sbclt? Ideas. We need to find thought people. Contacts for developers, contractors, neighborhood development. People experienced in grant writing. People experienced in web design or other technology. Connections. We need to network. A board to administer the Racial Equity Fund. Financial support through the Racial Equity Fund. We know, for instance, in our past conversation, they're looking for $5,000 to $10,000 in operational funding for staff salaries and stipends so that the staff can have basic health care. We also know that they have a $500,000 goal, which is still short of the $3 million construction cost for the first phase. And as we mentioned earlier, we do need experienced people in marketing and fundraising. So let's stop for a moment to see if there are additional ideas for actions needed for support of Sbclt not yet mentioned. and acknowledge that when we meet with SBCLT's leadership, that conversation ultimately will drive what assistance they want and get. So, any ideas that you did not hear mentioned? And I take part of this time while you're thinking to really feel that it's a reflection of what a wonderful job the brainstorming team did. Father,
I think I don't know how else to say this. It's probably not the final language, or if the choice is to include it. I think we want to continue to stay informed and educated around the South Baltimore program, so that we have the kind and quality of information that will enable us to respond in the most responsible way.
great, thank you. Anyone else?
Yep, I have a question.
Sure.
Father Josh Lawls is the pastor of, I guess it's called the Catholic Church of South Baltimore. I'm not sure exactly what that acronym is. They recently did a Zoom called Neighbor to Neighbor, also talking about social injustice, equity, outreach. Or is the land trust at all in communication with that group of people? And or should we in some way reach out to their social action committee to find out if they are doing anything with respect to the land trust, so that it
So,
could be a cooperative effort?
So I will let you know, Sue, that Father Josh has the 3 parishes right here, 2 in Federal Hill and 1 in Locust Point. So when the South Baltimore Community Land Trust is a lot further south, it's not exactly contiguous, I guess you would say. I can't find Sharon on my screen. Sharon, I didn't know if you wanted to add.
To my knowledge, we have not made contact with that group you just mentioned, but in the light of what was just said, that might be an excellent addition or a beginning. As Skip was saying, we know that we need to reach out to contact different groups and not be siloed as so often things are. And yes, that's an excellent idea. If nothing else, you simply make a hello, how are you? We're here, we do this. Who are you? What do you do? Do we have anything? Or, can we share some things and knowledge or expertise or experience? So yeah, I welcome the idea of getting in contact, because it's always something to learn.
Mhm.
And if I might interject, I was very impressed that that community, that social action committee, was a group of young adults. They were all, I would say, in their late 20s, early 30s.
Mhm.
So it was
That's good.
absolutely. So somehow, if maybe we could join efforts, because I was very impressed with their real commitment and spirituality as it relates to dealing with injustice, truly.
And I actually met with Father Josh a few weeks ago to discuss the group that they have. And part of what we can do is make that connection for South Baltimore community. We can do the networking as something that we can do if we know, like I know Father Josh and that group, so we can make those connections with South Baltimore Community Land Trust. So that's a good idea. So it doesn't have to be them having to do everything. That's something that we could put them in contact that would be helpful, hopefully. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I agree. I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Good,
Thank
excellent
you, Sue.
suggestion.
That was an excellent piece of information.
And that doesn't have to wait that can be done now.
Right.
Right.
I was also on that call where Sue was hearing them speak. And even though they said they're mostly a white parish, a lot of the people that were there discussing were Afro-American people. But they realized that they're pretty isolated, like we are, mostly a white parish. So, but I agree with you. I think it's a great idea to have them connect.
I do too. And remember, Cherry Hill in its inception was intentionally spatially set apart. And so any way that we come up with, any ways that we come up with for making connections and getting those kinds of, open channels going, I think among groups is really helpful. And sometimes people going through the same kinds of problem solving together gain a lot of support by realizing that they've got others on the same journey with them. So there's so many ways that this would be positive.
Mhm. Somebody else had their hand up. Jerry Filkowski, are you trying to? Okay.
Does the parish of St. Veronica still exist in Cherry Hill?
I don't know.
Well-
I have an email or a text from somebody. I was asking about those parishes. There are two parishes down there, and I can't remember the names, but that is Rose. Which one did you say, Jerry?
St. Veronica's.
I think that was one of them,
Well,
because we were talking about connections there.
yeah, because this is the Sbclt. I wonder if they're having any interface with these communities, because if we're going to do some talking, connecting with Josh, it wouldn't hurt for us to find out if they're active parish. I mean, it's always a case of, not that we would do that deliberately or even consciously, of thinking that we know what people need before we ask them what they need or what they're doing. And if these are existing parishes in Cherry Hill, it wouldn't hurt to just talk to them, I think, about this.
Right. We did ask Melanie, who's the executive director of South Baltimore Community Land Trust, if she had any ties to the churches down there. And we did ask her specifically about the Catholic ones. And she didn't as of yet, but she definitely would welcome that. So yeah, when we meet with her, whoever is going to end up meeting with the leadership of South Baltimore Community Land Trust, hopefully we'll get a lot of information of what they would like, and we can present ideas and see if they're interested or not. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't think that we intend to sort of just jump off on our own and go
Right.
about things. I think we would really talk to them and share with them what we believe we know exists in terms of resources and all. And then, as we set up at the beginning, take their lead on the yay and the nay, where to go forth, what to do first, and all of that. And that's the beautiful thing about having Sharon on the board, because she can really help us keep the flow in the right direction.
And keep us in line, right, Sharon?
Yes.
Denny and Rita?
I have a question. I think Sharon is probably the one that can answer me best, but whomever. I'm from South Baltimore, so I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhoods. Now, how far south does this go? Does it include Cherry Hill, Brooklyn, Curtis Bay? Does it go into Glen Burnie? What kind of area is concerned with this entire effort?
Currently, they're doing most of their work in Curtis Bay and Cherry Hill.
Okay.
That's where they started out with their advocacy about air quality, let's just say that. And from the air quality, they got into the basic needs of what do people need, and that brought them towards housing, fair housing, safe housing, clean housing. But yeah, it's in that area. Essentially, it's Cherry Hill and Curtis Bay. It doesn't exclude other areas, but that's where at the moment the concentration has been.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Father?
also, I just thought of one more thing. It's also two areas that have been historically overlooked and marginalized and redlined, or whatever you want to call it. But the other side of that coin is both areas that were just mentioned have become attractive to developers and gentrification in the last 5 to 7 years. So it's a dual thing.
Father, is your hand still up to say something?
I think so.
Okay.
Looks like it to me.
To me too.
St. Veronica's is a functioning Catholic church in Cherry Hill. And it would seem to me that being closely connected to them because they are there would be just in terms of finding out where they are around these issues from a day-to-day living perspective and what insights they might have, I think could be useful.
Mhm. Excellent. Anyone else? Thank you. These were particularly insightful. Rita?
Are all three churches in South Baltimore, Holy Cross and St. Mary's and Our Lady of Good Counsel, are they all part of the land trust, or just that the three of them as a group, and is it, do people know if all three parishes are involved?
They're all under Father Josh. When she brought that up, they're under Father Josh,
Yeah.
not under there are really no churches under the South Baltimore Community Land Trust. Is that what you mean? Or do you mean the locations of them?
I just meant, are people from all three parishes involved?
No,
No, not presently,
not yet.
not yet.
What we
So there
hope,
must- But there are some people from those three parishes involved, right?
not that we're aware of.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
That
No.
was the suggestion, that we should really get them perhaps
Build those connections.
talking to each other.
Oh, so Father Josh is involved, but none of his parishioners at any of the three
No,
parishes are involved.
Father Josh is not involved.
Oh, okay. All right.
I
Right.
think,
So we,
I think that Mary Lynn had her hand up before, and
okay, Mary Lynn, and then
Mary
Louise.
Lynn?
Yeah, thank you. I recently, well, I guess probably about 6 months ago, I attended St. Veronica, and it is a very active Catholic church, interracial, probably more so on the African American side. And I went there. I went there with someone, and from a Catholic parish near Catonsville. I don't know, is that called Most Precious Blood? Perpetual Help.
Oh, no.
Is that in Catonsville?
Yeah, Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Elk
Yeah.
Ridge.
I think so,
Elk Ridge?
around
Elk
there.
Ridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think there is a connection or a partnership between St. Veronica and Perpetual Help. And one being mostly white, and one being, majority on the African American side. So I don't know if they've done work with interracial issues or not.
Okay, I have a good friend there who was trying to lead their social action committee, but not having much success at OLPH. So I can check with her to see any connection that she knows of with St. Veronica's.
Okay, I had attended St. Veronica's with Betty McCallan from St. Vincent's because she's involved in that parish. And she was working with the pastor from that parish. So, you know, that might be a connection too.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Louise?
I'm going to try and do this. I keep flicking in and out because of my computer here. I don't know if you can hear me at this point.
We can
Yes,
hear you.
we can.
You're on mute.
Now we can't.
No,
Yeah.
I think we
Went
can't
out.
hear you now, Louise. We lost you. Sorry. If you want to type something in the chat, we'll be happy to
All
read.
right, try it again.
Okay, there you go.
Steve?
I'm sorry, Louise, we lost you again. We heard we'll try again, and that was all.
Mhm. She's mute. She's muted.
Louise, unmute yourself and try talking so we can find out whether we can hear you or not.
Okay, that's what I tried to do, and here we go again.
You're doing fine. Keep doing
working.
what you're doing.
Two items. One is St. Parish is a very active parish, and they might be able to help us in processing with some of these other parishes because they're almost entirely Black. And the second thing I'd like to say is within the parish newsletter or the site that we're going to make, I'd like to see a good biography written out so that a person can get books that are related to our topic.
Okay,
Somebody just happening on the website could easily maybe find a good book to get them started.
great.
Maybe we could all
Jack-
add to that.
That's
And
an
Jack
excellent suggestion. And we could start with the books that we all read at the beginning of our journey.
And Jack has been keeping a bibliography for us, so we'll be able to tie that in. So
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you all very much. And next we will review a summary of the actions needed that we discussed so far. And we'd like you to think about where you might, Louise, could you mute yourself now maybe? We're getting your twanging. We'd like you to think about where you might be able to help. So after you see the list, we'll go back and then we'll welcome volunteers for particular actions, knowing it will take all of us to engage the parish in this critical work. And so the time is now to get the anesthesia out of our church's stained glass windows. And we thank you, Dr. King, for that revealing concept. So I'm going to share my screen. Denny and Rita, did you have something?
I had one comment. When you talked about the witnessing aspect of it and possibly sharing a witnessing, that witnessing, is it particular to the racial equity thing, or can it be a generic witnessing, whatever that means?
I'm not exactly clear on what witness we would have to support our racial equity program that wouldn't have to deal with that, but we can discuss it offline if you want.
All right.
Okay, Mary Ann?
You're muted, Mary Ann.
I'm sorry.
problem.
You had mentioned earlier that because the parish was going to call a moratorium on extra activities, that we had to do a lot of this in the next 4 days. Are you talking about like if we volunteer for things?
All I was talking about was if we could take these next 4 days to maybe think about what we might want to write, just that witness statement to kind of have that done, because I think that's critical for everybody to do. And as long as we have this moratorium on some other activities other than the social action things, that gives us a little time.
Thank you.
And we're going back to when Jerry Theokowski was talking, and she just used that fantastic phrase about a Damascus moment for her, and described what really sort of pulled at her heart and really drew her commitment to the kind of work that we were talking about doing. And so we were wondering that for all of us, there probably in the course of the past 17 months has been some sort of dramatic moment or special something, whether it was in what you read or one of our discussions or something that happened, anything that made you feel like, oh yeah, this really is worth my staying involved with and doing something. That's what we're looking for.
Thanks, Skip. Jerry?
Where are we supposed to send our witness statement?
Well, we're going to get to that. So if you can hold on.
Okay.
So I'm going to share my screen.
Hey, Peg, I
Yeah.
just had one thought about that question that came up of, does it have to be about what we've been doing? I think part of this could be for your witness also, just what calls you to this work. So it could be what brought you on the very first time and keeps you here. So maybe that's something that was in your past or whatever. I think that would be totally appropriate.
Definitely. Maybe that's what
good thought.
Denny meant.
Good thought. Did that help, Denny?
See, my sister, she just reads your mind, Denny. It's pretty scary. All right, I'm going to share my screen so we can put this up. So when we put all the recommended actions together, as you can see, we're going to need your help. We're going to go over each item on the list and then go back, if time permits, asking for volunteers for different things. But if you feel called to one of these actions, please say so right away. You don't need to wait. So if any of the following move you, if your heart says, oh, I would like to do that, please feel to let me know, okay? So the first one is improve the website to include a We Have a Dream link. And I am committing to do that. So
And I'd work with you on that if you need additional help, okay?
thank you, Al. As you see, I'm committing us. Summarize the We Have a Dream sessions. So Jody and I have summarized from September 2020 through August of 2021. Our plan was to keep going and summarize them all, but if anybody feels like they'd love to listen to one of the recordings again and summarize it, please feel free to let me know because we'll welcome that. All right, the third one is to organize We Have a Dream videos in a folder on YouTube. I kind of tried that and failed, but Janice, I'll get right to you. I kind of failed, but I think if I can improve the website with a link, I think I can link the videos on our website and then we might not need a folder. So that's a possibility. Yes, Janice.
I would help with summarizing the sessions.
Oh, great. Thank you, Janice. All right, write or video a personal reflection. As I had said, I would love it if everyone would please do that. Number 5, collect the personal reflections. So this is an answer to your question, Jerry DeLombo. Collect the personal reflections. So if anybody would say, oh, just email them to me, I'll put your name on there. And again, you don't have to speak up right now. I'm going to go back again, but just if you feel called, jump in.
Actually, I could do that, Peggy.
Jody, thank you. Well, you're going to have other things, Jody, you sure? Jody's my backup. Well, we'll see if anybody else wants to volunteer. We'll put Jody in there with a question mark, because she has a lot of these that she's going to end up helping with. So number 6, get the word out personally about We Have a Dream. That's everybody. Number 7. So you might want to think about how you might want to do that, who you might want to try to reach. And you could think about that in these next 4 days. So number 7, write concise educational statements for the e-newsletter or call to worship. So these can be varied. I think we did that one on the Feast of the Baptism, just kind of to show that we can tie in our readings, the Bible readings, we can tie in songs, we can tie in the liturgy with what We Have a Dream is doing. And it can be any number of ways. It could be something in the e-newsletter, or I looked at the schedule for liturgy planners, and we have quite a few liturgy planners in this group that are coming up in the next 6 weeks. Unfortunately, one of them is already Sunday, so that might be too short, but
Big
you
Al
could,
has his hand up.
yeah, I just wanted to finish the sentence, Al, I'll get to you. So it can be in the call to worship, it can be in the prayers of the faithful, it can be in the e-newsletter, it can be something that you think is creative. And to tie in Father's homily, that might be why Father raised his hand, because we were talking about that earlier today. So the homilies, if you want to volunteer for a particular Sunday, you can touch base with Father and let him know what you're thinking. And you guys can build it so that the Mass will really, that the sacrament, the word, it will all kind of flow together with our service. Yes, Al.
Yeah, that was just doing a clarification that if you wind up being a liturgical planner and you're on this committee, think about how you might be able to work it in depending upon the readings. It can't be forced. It's got to flow from the readings.
Right.
Okay, that's all I was
Exactly.
going to say.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I will tell you that Jerry Filkowski is February 6th and Liz Hassan is February 20th, unless you already switched with people, but and Janice is this Sunday. So yeah, we're not talking about making something up that doesn't have anything to do with the gospel, because you can use the e-newsletter, you can do something creative that we haven't even thought of. Father?
Yeah, I think one thing, I'll share 2 quick things. One is a criticism that I have heard, that we get so focused on certain issues, we oversaturate. And I think from good psychology, we know that intermittent reinforcement is a very powerful tool. So I just would like us to be very thoughtful about integrating the issue. And again, the issue of racism is a very broad issue. But I would just invite us to be cautious, because the ultimate goal is for us to be respectful for the integrity of the particular liturgy, but also what is in fact going to have the greatest opportunity to impact the gathered community.
Thank you, Father. And somewhere down here, I think one of the things we have, maybe we want to do it once a month. So anyway, you can see what calls you. And again, we'll be talking to Father, and we'll make sure that we won't oversaturate. I think our goal was to try to get some little tidbits of education out there before the town meeting, so that the town meeting isn't the first that people have heard of all that is happening and all that the changes that we would like to see with racial inequity. So
I think we really do want to find what the happy medium is.
yeah.
and it, so that it has consistency. I always remember the Roman senator who always started his speech with Carthage must be destroyed. And after several years or so, they finally destroyed it. But, you know, he was just building that mindset bit by bit through the years.
Denny and Rita?
I was thinking, could we tie together our witness statement or our, let's see, what was that moment that Jerry Fialkowski called it?
Damascus.
Damascus moment, and tie that into what is going, could go into the bulletin, not the bulletin, the
Newsletter.
e-newsletter.
Well, that was one of the choices we said. It could be from the e-newsletter or in the call to worship. In the e-newsletter, those who choose to do it that way, you know how Colleen's kind of been blocking our We Have a Dream thing and putting it in. She can put your statement in a kind of a We Have a Dream block and title that just to keep it, you know.
But what I'm saying, could we, instead of creating something additional, add our shoot, what's it called
Damascus.
again? Our Damascus reaction to put that in the newsletter instead of writing something different. It wouldn't be educational so much as personal.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of your choices. That's personal. If it's your Damascus moment, it's very personal. And it could be in the e-newsletter. It could be it definitely would be probably part of the town meeting. We could link it on the website. So it doesn't have to be in the newsletter or in the call to worship. The possibilities are just endless. So whatever you choose, I'm sure will be perfect, Rita. Okay, anybody else? All right.
When is the town meeting?
We don't have a date set yet, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We know we were pushed off because of the synodal process. We
Okay.
know we have other things to do before that. We know we have to go to parish council. So I'll talk a little bit about that a little later here, Dennis, but we do not have a date yet for it because first we have to go to parish council and get them to agree that, yes, we want this to be a parish-wide effort. So
Okay.
to be continued. All right, let's see. I think we were on number 8. So write a We Have a Dream mission statement. We kind of started working on that. Skip did, and we're talking short, but how that will be used before we can go to parish council, we need a mission statement and a plan for how we're going to work the fund to then go to the town meeting. Bless you, who's ever not muted.
Peggy, if you need help with that, I would, or unless you have it under control.
That would be great, Marianne. We never turn down help offers.
Okay.
All right, then another thing would be to write brief progress reports for the e-newsletter. And this is where I had written down maybe monthly. So just kind of to see what's happening, especially after we get started with South Baltimore Community Land Trust. We'll want to let people know, what's happening so that they'll stay interested. Prepare a presentation for the parish council. I put down Skip and Peggy for that. But feel free if anybody would like to be a part of that. We have quite a few people on this call who go to parish council. Number 11, find a financial guru to advise on administration of the Racial Equity Fund. And that could be one of you. And we'll talk a little bit more about the fund just down a little lower. So 12, create flyers to advertise for the town meeting. Create or order indoor.
Once we know when it is.
When we know what it is, correct. We'll leave it the space for a date blank on that. Create or order indoor and outdoor banners of We Have a Dream, a world without racism. I did talk to Colleen. I hadn't had a chance to talk to Father yet. But, we've had that banner up on the side of the church that says racism defiles the image of God, Black Lives Matter, for quite some time. And I just put a little plug in her ear that it might be nice right around the time of the town hall meeting that we have a new banner that says, and this came up in the brainstorming also, that says, "We have a dream, a world without racism." And then I said we could put under that, "Join us." And maybe we get parishioners, who knows? But we also have where we can put a banner inside, like right as you come in the front door, kind of by our beautiful Holy Family picture, but we can put it in the front. We now have that beautiful one that's about the peaceable world that Janice did. We can do another one, rotate these periodically and do one for "We Have a Dream, a world without racism." Or we can order one if we don't make one. So that's a possibility. Take a role in the town hall meeting. We expect everyone to do that. And I don't know how many of you were on the Zoom that we had, and I don't remember what month it is, where we did breakout rooms to kind of try to practice that a little, like breaking into groups and discussing, what kind of moves us. And so we may have that sort of thing, a listening type, with each of you taking a lead with a small group at the town hall meeting. So that's a possibility. Attend events sponsored by South Baltimore Community Land Trust. For example, the groundbreaking of a new home. So when events happen in the communities that we're supporting, we would definitely like to have people there to support and encourage. Be a consultant or refer someone to South Baltimore Community Land Trust for things like strategic planning or neighborhood development or grant writing or web design or technology or artistic design or networking. And we know that South Baltimore Community Land Trust will drive this with what's their need that they had, that they might want us to see if we have people that are experts in it or have skill in it.
And Peggy,
Yes.
We're in a great position on this because our own Sharon is on the board. So she would be an excellent conduit to mention your, referral or suggestion, any of these things, so that she then would be able to work with us in the best way to process it, time it, pass it on through. And so we're not like bombarding all over the place, but that she could make that channeling such a organized process.
Right. And also the other direction, she can let us know if they're ready to work on a grant or something, and then we can see if somebody has help. So
having a board member there is just platinum.
She's priceless. We've always said she's priceless.
She is.
Jody, did you have a comment or question?
I was just wondering with Sharon, while we have all these people here, because I had gone to the South Baltimore Land Trust website and there weren't any videos or anything on it. So I felt like it could really be beefed up and be much more interesting. So I don't know, maybe there's some people in this group that do that kind of thing. Or anyway, Sharon, I just thought I'd mention that. We can be on the lookout for something like that. It would be nice.
Help.
What did you say?
It needs help.
Yeah, so I think it's important before the town hall, because if people hear about it, as soon as they start hearing about what we're supporting, they'll go and look it up like I did, and it's not going to pull people in to help, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sharon, Melanie did commit to, when we were on that one call together, or the Zoom together, she did commit to doing some videos for public interest. So maybe you could, mention that again, but she may be already working on that.
Well, since we have a bit of a hiatus due to the synod, it gives us a bit of time to work on the visual for the website and see what we can do in preparation for announcing an affiliation. Okay, agreed.
Great. Pat?
If there is nobody else in this group with the expertise, my son does web design for a living. So I can ask him if he would be willing to help with that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat. I'm just, so we don't forget that, I'm just gonna put Pat Law's son. Just so we don't forget, but I'll put a couple question marks. All right, thank you. All right, so the Racial Equity Fund personnel needs. So a coordinator for marketing, solicitation, the frequency of solicitation, kind of flushing out those things. A board to administer the fund. That would be to review and approve requests, generate records for reporting, maybe develop a form for funding requests. I will tell you that I have talked a little bit with both Father and Colleen, and how the Archdiocese's preference is that we not open a separate checking account. So I think what our Racial Equity Fund would be a line item at St. Vincent's. And what would be needed then, we would have to have people who would approve that this request came in, for example, from South Baltimore Community Land Trust for this specific thing, and they would look at it and decide if it should be approved or not, and then submit it to the parish for payment. So that's kind of, so we're not talking about a huge complicated thing. So even though a board and coordinator, and it sounds pretty heavy, I don't think it would be, maybe I spoke too soon. Go ahead, Father.
Oh, no, not at all.
Oh, okay.
I need a clarification. I had the assumption that this fund, where there would be a quarterly or annual contribution. I didn't realize, if I'm understanding correctly, the land trust would contact us about specific requests. So I have two different perspectives in terms of what this fund is. I was functioning out of, we were making a contribution on a semi-annual or annual basis. So if you could clarify that, at least for me, there may be others that are unclear about that.
Sure. And again, we haven't flushed this all out yet, but our thought was that as for soliciting funds, we don't know if it'll be one time. That was, I think, part of our discussion, a one-time request, quarterly, monthly. Somebody may want to donate once a month. Somebody may just want to donate once a year, but the needs will drive what gets paid out of that. So perhaps if they have a specific need and it's critical and it's right now, they might ask that. We always know that they're going to need money for groundbreaking and building, Jody, let me get Father first, just in case this is a follow-up on that.
Yeah, it is a follow-up. Is there any way for us, because I went to their website as well, is there any way to get what their budget is, so we have a sense of what they?
Yes, we will meet with the entire leadership team there, and anything that, for example, if we had a coordinator for this, whatever they wanted to supply or what you would like Father to see, anything, we'll ask for anything that you think would be helpful. So feel free to let me know, or if somebody else has some thoughts of what you think we would like to request from them, that would be great. And Jody, I think you were next.
The other piece was that I think we felt like, and this had been mentioned actually, that when people know there's a need, like for healthcare or whatever, that people want to then give at that point, and then there might be a need down the road and they'll say, oh, that's a really good one, I want to do that. So rather than just having a certain amount that we contribute each year or semi-annually or how often, there was a thought that the needs actually would drive people's interest and desire to want to give.
Thank you. Yes. And Al, did your hand disappear? Did you?
Well,
did
I think
Jody do that?
Jody,
She
I
took
think
care of
Jody
it.
answered my question, clear enough. That
Okay,
this is a fund we have here. Sharon's group has its own funding from other sources, but we would be then either receive a request directly from the Sbclt, whatever it is.
yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, they've been getting grants. Their $3 million goal, they're $500,000 short. So they've gotten 2.5. So yes, they're getting grants. They're doing all kinds of things to raise money. But we also would like to raise money and assist in their efforts, because again, this is for the first home. So hopefully this would be a continuous thing. Let's see, we might want to develop a form for requests that come in so that it's standard. Louise, we'll
Let's try it again.
Okay.
They may have a form, and it should certainly at least overlap or coordinate. I'd be willing to look into that and or develop a form.
Okay, great. Right, and then we know eventually one of the things that we will want to do is engage other parishes in our work. And we're just not quite ready since we haven't engaged our own parish yet. So let's review these again. And if you've given it a thought, now that you've seen the things listed so far for education and South Baltimore Community Land Trust. And again, we haven't covered the town meeting and that sort of thing yet. But let's go through again and see if there's anything that you are called to volunteer for. Please feel free to speak up. So we've got, go ahead. Did somebody say something?
Yes. So Peggy, it's Sue Woodman.
Okay, Sue.
Because I truly believe in the importance of building relationship, I would be interested in attending events sponsored by the South Baltimore Trust. And I am assuming then I would be in contact with why can't I think of the
Melanie?
Who would I be in contact with to be made aware of these events, I guess.
I'm hoping that we'll develop a relationship, a very good relationship with them, so that Sharon definitely can let us know. But I'm hoping that we'll have a good relationship with their whole leadership team and we can be talking back and forth. Sharon?
So Sharon, again.
Sharon's on their board.
I can send you my contact information and or you can send me yours, and that could be a step.
Well, hopefully what we're going to have a meeting where all of the board is in contact with you, St. Vincent, and you will identify each other by face and that thing. Then on a regular basis, we will have a quarterly follow-up, biannual, whatever, and that will keep the relationship and the knowledge going and the information going back and forth.
All right.
Thank you both.
And I would expect that for something like a groundbreaking or some big event that's going to be public with them, as many of us as possible to just be there, just offering that moral and physical support would really be a good thing. And it also begins to build the feeling among key leaders in city politics and wherever, and the media as well, to begin covering Sbclt. and giving them more visibility.
And it would be fun.
Yeah, it would actually be fun too.
But it does bring up where we talked about having a monthly, our history of the, we have a dream group that we should probably also be thinking in terms of that we'll need a monthly, what's going on at SBCLT.
Well, that was the monthly progress report right here. That was for us and for SBL.
Oh, for both, okay.
So we can add that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should volunteer for that one.
I guess you should, Sharon.
Awesome.
Okay. So just
I had
quickly,
a question about
Yeah, Dennis.
number 7.
okay.
What kind of educational statements are we talking about that are needed?
We're not narrowing it down. So if there's something that you think would help people understand, as Father said in his prayer earlier, kind of the roots, if you think there's a statement that you could share that would say why you think this is really important work that we're doing. It's wide open. It's Skip, did you want to add anything about?
Yeah,
specific?
it could even be a great quote that you heard that you just thought just nailed something, right? And then offer that quote up, maybe one sentence of your own personally, but it could be so many things that you think that you would feel would move people because it really touched you.
Oh, okay.
One example, I'm working on something for the reconciliation ceremony. I was trying to fall asleep and I was listening to Stephen Colbert, and he ended his monologue with a quote from Dr. King in 1967 that almost knocked me out of the bed. It was real short and I couldn't get up in time to grab a pen to write it down. So I know that on demand, probably his show from this past Tuesday will be put up by Friday. So I'm going to get up Friday and on demand, find Stephen Colbert, get that little short quote. And I think, for me, it'll come in handy one or two places, but something like that, anything that you really feel touched you. So let's share it.
Okay. And how often these statements are needed? Anytime you have an inspiration or something?
Well, go ahead and write it up as soon as you have the inspiration, Dennis. As Father said, I guess we don't want to saturate them every single week, or it'll be that people won't read it. But depending on the variety, whether it's the e-news or maybe just a picture at the back of church, or I guess based on the variety might help with the fact that it wouldn't be weekly, at least in that format of the e-newsletter. So we're open for suggestions. We're open for saying, oh no, that's way too often, or that's not often enough. So if you have any thoughts, Dennis, please share.
Okay. All right.
Kathy, you have your hand raised?
Yes, mine, yes. So in relation to that, with the newsletter, do we need a person like to coordinate that? If we're gonna have something like that, like we were talking about once a month, we would need someone, to gather this and make sure it happens and coordinate with Colleen that she puts it in there and that. So I could do that.
Great.
Oh, wow.
Great. I'll put Kathy coordinate.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Jerry Sokola?
Yeah, hi. So I would like to add my name to number 7.
Okay.
I'm coming in late here, so forgive me. I don't know about 4, maybe.
4 is everybody.
Okay, good, thank you.
So don't worry, you're already on that one, Jerry.
Okay. If I can help a parish council, of course I will, because I'm there.
Okay. Do you
Um,
think what number that is?
Parish,
I found it.
that's you guys, 10.
Fine.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
I'll have to think about the rest, but okay.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it for
you.
now.
Thank you. Jerry DeLamba?
Jerry Sbclt just came in before me, but number 10, I would like to be included in that. I really
Okay.
enjoyed working with you and Skip, prior to now on the letter, and, if I could be of
Great.
any help.
Great.
You can,
Thank
vice
you.
versa. We love working with you too, Jerry.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
we take and need all the help we can get. So that's perfect.
Thank you.
All right. So give a lot of thought to the Jerry, is this a new hand? Jerry Sokola, is that a new hand up or the same one?
It's the same hand, but it occurred to me that if I could be at all helpful to Mary Ann on the mission statement, I would, but she probably doesn't need me.
I'll put you down anyway, and we'll talk about that.
And Peggy,
Just
put me
talk
up for
about that.
number 7.
Dennis,
Yeah.
7, okay. I'm gonna put M, so, well, of course, McMullen. Well, everybody calls him Denny, never mind. Liz, you're muted, hon.
Okay, I was going to say number 7, but I think we're getting a little overloaded on that. I will do 5. I will collect the personal reflections, however you want that done.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Sharon,
I'm gonna sign up for, let me see, number 14.
Oops.
okay. Oh, that's everyone, Sharon. You don't have to sign up.
Oh, I don't have to sign up for that.
Everybody's
Okay.
already signed up. I'm
I
gonna put your name down there. Maybe you can help plan with it.
Okay, yeah, planning, and was there another one? Number 10.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She.
So Jerry Sokola, is that the same hand or do you have another thought? I'm gonna assume it's the same
It
hand.
actually is the same hand, but I just had another thought. Sorry.
Okay, throw it in there.
So I would really, really love to be helpful on 16 on strategic planning.
Okay.
But I just have no clue what that means in terms of time availability.
Okay.
The other thing I just want to say is, I think there are a lot of other people probably out there in the parish who could sign, who would be interested in helping on a lot of these things. And they may not be on the call tonight. So we have to figure out how to, how to send that out.
Yes.
Yeah, and I will send this list out to all of you, and I would keep that in mind. And the other thing is too, when we get to the town meeting, finally, there are going to be a lot of actions that will still be needed. And that will be an opportunity also for parishioners to jump in also. But yeah, I think that's great. Keep in mind people that you're thinking of, that you think, oh boy, I think this person would be really good. And feel free to approach them and say, hey, how would you like to help with this?
And sometimes buddying up makes it easier for someone to say yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So volunteer to work with them. So we are kind of running on time here, a little late. So I just wanted to cover a few more things, and I'll send this out to everyone. And I appreciate you for jumping in, you all.
Fantastic as always, family.
As always. So the significance and extent of what we do to promote the racial equity will be much greater if the whole parish community is with us. So therefore, we know the town hall presentation will be extremely important for a parish-wide buy-in of this work that we have ahead of us. So we have given some thought to the framework of that town hall meeting, but we're going to postpone that to a later date since we know it's not imminent. So our next We Have a Dream meeting will not be in February, as discussed above, because of what the parish council requested. And the liturgy committee asked Skip and me if We Have a Dream would plan the reconciliation service for March 16th, which is the third Wednesday of the month, in lieu of our normal meeting. And they asked if Skip would give the reflection. So we didn't want to lose 2 months of We Have a Dream planning and momentum. So what we're proposing is that we begin with the reconciliation service, focusing on God's relationship with God's people and our failure to relate to each other, regardless of ethnicity or race or where we live. And maintaining the barriers of inequity among people does not just blur God's image, but it defiles us. Just kind of like our sticker that we have now, defiling the image of God.
Blurs the image of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually taking it more strongly than that. It defiles God's image.
It defiles God's image. So then what we're proposing is towards the end of that, or at the end of that, some people will be staying for private reconciliation. And we would like to have a brief We Have a Dream meeting right afterwards, because what we'd like to do is focus on our acknowledgement letter. So those who are there at the reconciliation service can move into the rectory with us. Those at home can join via Zoom. And then we can focus on how our complicity with the sin of racism, which is what our acknowledgement letter is all about. So we thought it kind of tied together with the reconciliation. So that would be on March 16th. We haven't set the time yet. I did talk to Colleen today to ask her if the liturgy committee had set a time. And she kind of gave us that we could go anywhere from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. So 6:30, 7, and then the reconciliation service, and then into a We Have a Dream, probably half an hour to go over the acknowledgement letter. So I don't know what time is, if anybody
for
has.
most people. Yeah.
Yeah, does anybody have, oh no, definitely don't do it at that time, or yes, I think that's a great time, or do you want us to just see what works for Skip the best?
Well, Peggy.
No, don't do that.
Oh, wait a minute, Father, was that
Peggy,
Father's voice?
Yeah, if you're going to have a meeting right after the reconciliation service, I'm going to be hearing reconciliation privately, so I wouldn't be able to participate. So maybe I can write comments, et cetera, and get them to you ahead of time.
That would be great.
Okay,
Thank you, Father.
And that's going to be, I'm sorry, Peggy. I'm just going to say that's going to be the only focus of the meeting. It's not going to be, as Peggy said, another hour and a half meeting. We're going to look at the letter, which has been drafted, and I'll pull no bones. I'm going to strongly urge you to see it as masterful.
And we'll look at it again, because we haven't looked at it for a couple months now. And just tweak.
So we need you to look.
And we did that at the meeting, but also Father will get you a copy of, or Peggy or Skip will get you a copy of it anyway beforehand.
Already sent today. Al, did you have something?
Just to let you know that virtually all of the Lenten events will be at 7. So you might, be conscious of that in terms of people getting into a
habit.
Habit, yes.
That
Okay.
helps.
All right, thanks, Al. Mary, I started to say Al, unless you want to give your spot to your bride. Mary Ann, he's already gone, so now it's your turn.
Is it possible for, has the letter changed since the last time we looked at it? And if so, could we get a copy before that half-hour meeting?
That's a good idea. I will send that out. We did, we adjusted it based on all the feedback. And I can't remember how much we changed it after the last meeting based on feedback, but we'll send that out. Let me make a note.
Yes, and it's specifically to Bishop Lewandowski and, some key copies. So it's not to the city and to the world. It's specifically there. And with trying to fit in many of the suggestions, most of them that you gave us, and then make it flow coherently.
And
Thank
then
you.
hopefully we'll use that as a basis for our letter for the newspaper, but all of it will not be applicable because as Skip said, it's for the Archbishop. Jerry Filkowski?
Yeah. Wait a minute. I just wanted to say, we were talking about using the call to worship or the prayer of the faithful, and giving heads up to liturgy planners, but not overdoing it. But first of all, with Jerry Sokola and Al and Pat Ball, I'm on the liturgy committee, and so I can't really speak for them, but I'm speaking for them and saying that we're just so thrilled that you said yes, that you and Skip will do the reconciliation service. But the other thing I wanted to say about it was that maybe unconsciously, Skip doesn't even realize he nailed it, because when he talked about how we may demonize or hurt the image of God through racism, we're building liturgies around Janus's magnificent banner that God is here. And so when Skip says that, then our question is, what is the image of that God that is here now? And I just love that he said that through racism, we are demonizing the image of God. So if we're saying that, we believe it, that God is here now, what's that God like that's here now? So we're so excited that, aren't we, Al and Pat Ball and Jerry Sokola, that you're doing reconciliation service for us?
I'm feeling the pressure. Jerry, I was reading Richard Rohr, and he did this beautiful expression of God's self is relationship, the ultimate relationship. And it gave me the pathway that I want to go down in terms of talking about. I don't want to do it anymore because it's like giving away the movie.
Yeah, don't give it. Whatever you do, we're all gonna be so really happy to learn something. But it's such a great way to knit together all the wonderful work that you all been doing.
Thanks. And Peggy's going to be working with me, so once I get some thoughts down, she's going to.
And if anyone else would like to help, please let us know. We'll be happy to take other people to help plan.
Yeah, especially the whole reconciliation.
And we know Father will have a big role.
Yes, we hope.
He has to forgive all the sins from all of us. Whoa, that's a big role.
I don't forgive sins, for God's sake.
That's true. For God's sake.
So that is true.
All right. Okay, so now, Jerry, did you have another one? Or are you just trying to wave your hand
down? No,
My hand was up, not hers.
Oh, you were clapping, Mary Catherine. Sorry.
No, I put the hand up thing. But
okay.
Anyhow.
Yes,
ma'am. I just want to let you know that Women in Ministry is doing on March 30th the Stations of the Cross, and they are on racism. And so it'll be also tied into all of this also. And I also wanted to say that I wanted to suggest that after Father does the prayer to start our meeting, since we are on racism and injustice, I think we should do the quick land acknowledgement for the Native people before, when we start each one of these meetings.
That's a good idea. So Mary Catherine, we'll let you do that each meeting.
Okay.
That would be great. That would be great. So now, if there isn't anything else, I'm going to ask everybody to bow your heads for the final prayer. And just a reminder, no meeting in February, and our next meeting, March 16th, after reconciliation. Dear God, I write this prayer on the day set aside to celebrate the awe-inspiring life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When we get tired, help us remember what he sacrificed to stir feelings that would prompt the silent majority to action, to address the racial inequities pervasive in society. Help us remember the ongoing structures of white privilege and systemic racism that fly in the face of justice and scripture. Give us wisdom and strength to do your will and honor the legacy that is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who led as Jesus would. We thank you, God, for this team and for any help you give us. Amen.
Amen.
And I'm going to stop the recording.